Commissioner, are you on the phone?
I am. Thank you. So sorry I'm late.
Madam Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. First of all, could we just call a roll so we establish who's here?
Alderman Cruzen.
Present by telephone.
Chairman Stouter.
Here.
Commissioner Powers.
Here.
Commissioner Jay.
Here.
Commissioner Spade.
Here.
Commissioner Vizentainer.
Here.
Commissioner Peebles.
Here.
And Alderman Cohn, not present. Commissioner Bradley, not present. Commissioner Brown, not present.
Thank you. First item on the agenda, item number 2, is approval of the minutes from May 14th meeting. They were emailed to us.
Move we approve.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes as they were distributed to us. Are there any comments or additions or corrections to the minutes? We have a motion and a second. Could you read the roll, please?
Alderwoman Cruzen.
Aye.
Chairman Stouter.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Peebles.
Aye.
Commissioner Jay.
Aye.
Commissioner Spade.
Aye.
And Commissioner Vizentainer.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all present voting yes.
Okay. We'll move on to the action items, the landmarks, the first landmark item.
And Roman will be the staff member that will introduce them. Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the Commission. This is a proposed landmark designation for Tilley's Corner. The site is made up of 5 parcels. It's located at 1345-55 North Garrison at the corner of Sheridan Avenue in the Jeff Vanderloo neighborhood. It's located a couple blocks away from the new Vashon High School, as well as the Renaissance Place at Grand, which is the redeveloped Blumeyer Homes public housing complex. The site includes an existing residence that goes by the name of Butterfly Home and a garage, and it also includes a proposed community garden, a playground, and a storefront memorial. The proposed designation commemorates Tilley's Food Shop, which was an important corner store for the African American community for 4 decades, from 1948 to 1988. Betsy Bradley, who's Don mentioned, is the director of the Cultural Resources Office, prepared the petition in conjunction with a person over at the Landmarks Association, so she's well-versed on this particular site. She'll talk a little bit about the site, and then I'll conclude with some remarks at the end.
Well, this is a good time to point out the difference between the city landmark and the National Register nomination. Tilley's Corner was on its way to being listed in the National Register for the important work that Mrs. Lillian D. Granny Pearson did there, as is quoted here on the slide. But a couple of bad storms and the poor condition of those buildings caused them to collapse right before the final listing in the National Register. That listing would have afforded the use of historic tax credits for the rehab of those buildings and an even the higher status of being listed in the National Register. After that happened, Carla and Miguel Alexander approached me about could it be a city landmark. I said, well, yes, but there needs to be some there, and it has to be some building, something to note in our landmark. And so we waited until Butterfly Home was built, and that was kind of built and given to the Alexanders by the supporters of their organization, which is just known as Tilley's Corner. And the Alexanders are real dynamos in developing programs that have to do with Black history, supporting Black businesses, educating children. They're going to have the community garden there. It's about community support, meeting people, supporting everybody in the neighborhood. It's close to the Dunbar Elementary School as well, and they've done some programming there as well. The Alexanders are turning into real historic preservationists way beyond the story of their family's property. So this is an unusual city landmark, but I feel one that commemorates the sort of cultural activity that the Pearson family had undertaken. Carla is the granddaughter of Randy Pearson, and so there's a real strong urge in that family to build community. And so once they complete their program, the photographs will show that we'll have a very interesting city landmark there that will support the work that they do. Here, you can see the butterfly house with its angled roof in the form of the butterfly wings. The stakes are there for the fence around the large community garden that will occupy the corner of the site. And then on the southern portion of the site beyond the house will be the children's playground. And there's an old garage there that will be used as a support building for the garden. So we'd hope that the garden would be a little further along, but it's supposed to go in this early summer, be a major part of the landmark site.
The city strategic land use plan designates the site as a neighborhood development area. That's shown in orange here. Neighborhood development area encourages neighborhood development projects such as this one. So the proposed city landmark designation is in fact in conformity with the strategic land use plan. The designation will have a positive impact on the physical development of the city, and the PDA director is directed to notify the Preservation Board of the Planning Commission's recommendation.
And Betsy, would you just give the overall process?
Okay, well, we go from general to specific and then kind of back to general again. As Don mentioned, the Board of Public Service and the Planning Commission are our first two stops, and I have a letter of support from Bradley that the Board of Public Service has reviewed this. And the fourth Monday in June, the Preservation Board will consider the proposed landmark and likely make a recommendation that it be considered further as a landmark. Then I prepare a board bill, and in this case, Dave has indicated her support and that she would introduce that bill. And then it goes through the board bill process at the Board of Aldermen and becomes a city ordinance and designates a landmark. Then after that, we review all changes to the landmark property. So it gets a very considered review of various levels of the city. So we're on our first stop tonight and things going.
So changes to the parcel would need to be reviewed.
Right, and we prepare specific standards for each site, and these are a little different standards, and any proposed addition to the site that supports the work of the Tilley's Corner organization, we pretty much approve that everything that's there will be kept in good repair and be permanent or exceptionally temporary and removed right away, so that there'll be some oversight, but it's more open than in the typical landmark where you're protecting a historic building.
What's the owner's motivation for doing this?
Well, again, they started with the story of the family member and all the good work that she did, and now they've just Carla is in particular, and very much supported by Miguel, interested in Black history in the city of St. Louis, adding to and supporting the Black history-related landmarks that we have. It's kind of like anybody else becomes a preservationist. You can start with one building or one story, and you see how it can connect people with the past and the present. So it's very much becomes avocation and vocation.
Sure.
Does it give them access to any funding? I didn't think we had funding to help with that.
It doesn't in this sense, but actually we've nominated Carla to attend the National Trust Conference as a minority participant and waiting to hear on that. So I think her work on this will open doors.
Might open doors
to her in various ways.
Yeah.
That she will. Well, she already is a prominent Black preservationist in our city. It's just that we all don't know her yet, so we'll get to know her.
You get my vote for having gardens being historic places.
Any other comments or questions? Is there a motion to find it in conformity with our land use plan and recommend it?
So moved.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. We need to take a roll.
Alderman Cruzen.
Aye.
Chairman Stouter.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Peebles.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Jay.
Aye.
Commissioner Spade.
Aye.
Commissioner Vizentainer.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all present voting yes.
On to to item number 4.
One of our guests tonight is the intern Catherine Warner, the Sustainability Director. One of the major activities that's going on is an effort to plant butterfly gardens or gardens that will support the monarch migration. I whispered to Maria, go back to Catherine and remember this might be an ideal spot. Got a butterfly house.
Good evening. The second landmark designation before you is the New Age Federal Savings and Loan. It's located on North Kings Highway, just south of Dr. King Drive at Ridge. And it's the New Age Federal Savings and Loan actually was established in 1916 as a black-owned financial institution, and it remained the only black-owned financial institution well into the 1960s. And in 1958, we built a new modern bank facility where at that time all of the staff was black and most customers, and they had a drive-through facility which was ahead of its time in 1958, and so this was a modern building. This would have been right across the street from the Sears store, a major commercial area.
So we actually picked up this building in our survey of mid-century modern non-residential buildings that we undertook in the last couple of years, finishing in 2013. And so it's very serendipitous when Mr. Moore called and said, I own this building and I'm interested in being a city landmark and maybe even listed on the National Register. So I said, well, let's do the landmark first. And so we had enough information to do the petition. We could include much more about the story of the bank and how so many people have their savings accounts there and children and families and how it really impacted financial stability of the black population of St. Louis. But we had enough to go forward, and we're acknowledging that it's both an important institution and this new, finally purpose-built building designed by St. Louis architect W. Duncan in 1958. They took their cues from the neighborhood banks that were a little less formal than the more formal downtown banks that were being built. And so it has all the modern facilities of a nice deposit box and drive-up window, but it also seems sort of welcoming and anybody could walk in and do their banking business there. So we feel that it's important at both the city and state level because of the early and long history of the banking institution as a black-owned building. If we go and look at the photos of it, you see here it has this stone ashlar long curved wall on the back side, so you could drive up to the window and then continue on around the building and exit the property. It has some window walls there and a recessed entrance there facing the Kings Highway. So it was stylish without being too formal, and really hits many of the notes of mid-century modern design of the time. So I think it really speaks to the success of this institution at that time, and just like all our landmarks do, it tells an important story. This one's more typical than our last one. Mr. Moore rents it now to a church. He plans to continue to own it and rent it. The standards for this building require that the integrity of the building be maintained primarily on the exterior, but allowing some modifications so it can be used for whatever business or institution might go in there. So we want this building occupied.
And under the strategic land use plan, the west side of Kings Highway is the neighborhood commercial area. Of course, the original use and proposed uses fit in with the neighborhood commercial area, which encourages the rehabilitation of existing commercial building stock. So that's what this is all about. And it will have a positive effect on the physical development of the city, and we're asking you to direct the PDA director by resolution of your recommendation.
Move approval. Second.
So moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions?
Previous roll.
previous roles and requested. Are there any objections to Ida on the phone or any of the commissioners present to the use of the previous role? Seeing none, the matter passes.
And before we, Betsy adjourns, would you just give a quick little snapshot? You made reference to our mid-century modern examination. That is.
Yeah, as we know that some of the buildings built in the post-war building boom in the 50s and 60s primarily and into the early 70s are mid-century modern in design and approaching that 50-year cutoff point that isn't generally accepted as to indicate something has become historic. Remember, we have a lot of 50-year anniversaries this year of the March on Washington, assassinations and all sorts of things. Happened in 1964. We tend to think of the things 50 years and older as historic. So we wanted to know at the very beginning of this period what our most important buildings might be in the city. And we chose to look at the non-residential buildings as a big chunk of them, primarily because they were built throughout the city, and we had a few residential neighborhoods that were built out at that time, but the residential portion was lots in quantity of buildings than the non-residential. So we have a good handle and records on the type of building in our city, and we'll be on the lookout for landmarks and other National Register properties in that period. And so we're adding to our portfolio of historic buildings, taking it on up into the cities of past.
Partly meaning that we'll also get a grant to do that in an organized fashion, to do an inventory of them so that we're aware of them. We've told the public as to some that are the most prominent in their mind. So we're familiar. We'll start to see them more and more as folks having an opportunity and being excited about them to renovate them. And then there'll be some that will come that people who are not so excited about renovating and will want to demolish them. So this is a lot of prep work for our understanding of that.
What's the time frame for all of that, the inventory?
Well, we went up to the kind of 1975. I found that 1973 is kind of a good cutoff point for downtown, and then the convention center was built after that. We have a few buildings in the 75, 76 period, and then there was another kind of lull in buildings. So, and the building didn't really start, and there weren't too many buildings even built in the early 50s. 1955 and really the 60s was the heyday. Late 50s we saw some. Which isn't surprising because it took a while for anybody to start building after World War II. And so we had a whole, and the 1955 bond issue was important. We got schools and public buildings and park buildings and all sorts of public infrastructure out of that initiative. So that kind of kicks off really the period of 55 to 70, I think, is really when most of these buildings were built.
So with the work being done, we'll use it in some circumstances, correct me if I'm wrong, to update the period of significance in some of our existing historic districts that might merit expanding. And second is it's also information and for the private property owners to sort of say, hey, maybe I ought to move my building to a further step and take advantage and have it designated on the historic register. Thank you, Betsy.
Move on to item number 4, or zoning issue for the night.
Yes, we have one rezoning tonight. It's for 7200 to 30 South Broadway. This is South Broadway. Loftboro is up here in the north, Interstate 65. Mississippi River off to the side, so it's obviously mostly industrial to the east and mostly residential to the west. This is a 0.91 acre parcel. There's a related Chapter 99 plan, and it's obviously under an acre and done administratively. The site is bound by Nagle, East Nagle, and on the north, and East Robert on the south. It's basically the whole city block, and there's 10 unoccupied buildings. I believe 8 of them are mixed-use buildings, and then there's a couple of garages or they have stables when it was built. And the proposal by James Deering, who is here and can answer questions later on, he's proposing renovation of all of these buildings and commercial uses on the first floor, 15,000 square feet, and then a few of them are one-story, but most are 2 or 3 stories, and they have residential units. There's 12 in total, and the total project cost is about $1.7 million, and I believe the acquisition was $90,000. Now, the J Industrial does not allow the residential uses on the east side of the street, but, I mean, this is a long history. These buildings were probably there 40 or 50 years before zoning even came into existence, so there was already mixed uses there. The 1950 zoning tended to have industrial on the east side and commercial on the west side. And so this is adjusting the boundary between the two districts to include this area. And this is a view from Nagel looking south at the north half of the block. This is the same block face looking from the middle of the block. And some of the people this was Cash's scrap metal recently, and there's furniture stores, laundry, barber shop, tattoo parlor. So there's been quite a bit of commercial along this, and you can see that there's a lot of residential on the upper floors. This is the zoning map, and you can see that it's J Industrial on the east side of the street, and so the proposal is to rezone that J Industrial to E and to F neighborhood commercial, matching the other side of the street, and basically moving that boundary over to include these buildings, which, if you look at the surrounding buildings, they look much like the buildings in the site. So a lot of commercial with residential above, and this fits in with the surrounding buildings. The exceptions of this are, across the street is the Southern Commercial Bank. There is a large parking lot directly across from much of the site. And to the south, it's a railroad-owned site used for tractor trailers and storage. But the other directions, northwest and north and west of the site, are similar mixed-use buildings. The strategic land use plan kind of reflects the ideas of the zoning of having business industrial on the east side of Broadway and commercial on the west side. However, using the adjacency rule, we can use the neighborhood commercial across the street. And if we do that, the neighborhood commercial encourages the rehabilitation of existing buildings for commercial and especially for mixed uses. So this fits in the F neighborhood commercial zone and the neighborhood commercial area under the strategic land use plan. And the zoning administrator mentioned that this rezoning permits the petitioner to develop proposed residential units, which aren't allowed under J, and the first floor commercial spaces in compliance with the zoning code. And the reuse of the site would be beneficial developments for the city and promote and conserve the property values of the commercial and mixed-use buildings along Broadway. I'd be glad to answer any questions, and James Deering, the developer, is here also to answer your questions.
Any questions?
Seems like you'd want to ideally do that
Yeah.
along Broadway no matter what. I mean, I like that pattern personally, and
I agree.
Are you moving the existing businesses in the renovation, or are they staying?
I acquired the property in September of last year. It was Project 87, so it was condemned as a nuisance property, although people were still there. I emptied it out, cleaned it out, and got rid of the elements that were causing that and preparing it for renovation. But previous to that, the laundromat was existing, as well as numerous other businesses, as Dick had mentioned, as well as the upstairs units were being used as residential. I office in the Carondelet South Broadway Strip. I currently own 8 other primarily mixed-use buildings and about 24 units, so it's compatible with what I'm already doing and developing is running the business association there. And actually, 2 blocks down, one of the properties is a mixed-use building on that east side of Broadway that is commercial downstairs, so for the deli and that and residential upstairs.
James, tell us how long you've been involved down there.
Well, if Betsy was here, she'd call me historic, I guess. So, I bought my first property down there right at the turn of the century, but prior to that, I'm a licensed real estate agent, broker, developer, and have a property management company. So I've been doing it since I've been back from college, essentially. However, this is one of the largest projects I've taken on state, and I'm partnering with some other developers and people to get this accomplished. The rezoning is by virtue of the Chapter 99, and to get my tax abatement, which is all approved, but pending the rezoning.
And just for a little more character, I'll put you on the spot. Rick Bradley, who's the head of the Board of Public Services, not here. Talk a little about the streetscape improvements that have been begun there, and if you can dabble into just give these guys a little bit of the character that's being helped by the mural project.
Yeah, and I think, Don, you've been down to see what hopefully the renaissance of Carondelet, and specifically the South Broadway district is doing. He's making reference to the first section of our streetscape improvement was actually funded and applied for with stimulus money, which covers the area from 74 through the 7700 block of South Broadway. All new streetscape, new paving, benches, new lighting, trash cans, all of that. That project is going to be first extended south, actually all the way to the River the Pear, and then we'll
bike lane, isn't there? Is there a bike lane?
Yes, there's a bike lane now. There's a lot of cyclists that go through, myself included. I do a lot of bicycling. Then it will be extended all the way up north to Belle Reve Park. We've worked a lot with marketing the area, marketing campaign, a lot of new signage that's up showing that, including our murals project, which we are just completing the 5th mural. I'm familiar with that as well. And the 6th is already funded, and we're getting ready to put that out to bid. So I would encourage any of you, if you haven't traveled that way, or if you were transversing the Highway 55 downtown South County route and you find yourself stuck in traffic with an accident there, some people, that's their opportunity to tour South Broadway. But I'd invite you to come down. The area is experiencing renaissance, and I'm blessed to be part of that.
I've got a zoning question. So the first floor has typically always been commercial. Some of the second floor, however, was residential, and you said this may have occurred pre-zoning regulation. When the zoning code was put in place, was the desire to eradicate the residential at some point, or just to, because it was potentially there already on a second floor level, is what I understood.
Well, I think if you look at the 1950 zoning map, it reflects the 1947 comprehensive plan. And they were looking at a population of 900,000. And so one of the things they did was get enough commercial and industrial for a population of 900,000. So that's why, some of the commercial streets, say like Chippewa, they have sections that are residential. It's commercial all the way down because, the highest and best use is going to be much denser. And so industrial is considered, it's a denser zone than commercial. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, it wasn't going to help some of the existing development.
Got it.
So it's non-conforming,
So they basically put in the zoning to be one way regardless of what was currently there, and assuming that would eventually change.
Remember, from between there and the river is a pretty industrial area.
Sure.
Historically, still is, but not as dense as it used to be, or not as dense as they probably anticipated.
I just see that strip of South Broadway really being ideal as far as development goes as a model, because it is, pushed up to the lot line, the buildings, commercial first floors, seemingly residential second floors, and it's very walkable and encourages the exact sort of thing that you're talking about is happening. So I'm just curious why they would want to change that, but I guess different mindset at that point.
There are a number of, if I could speak to that, I think the plan and the intention with the zoning in J&K back below was for the industrial, but there still are a number of remaining buildings that front Broadway directly across the block from me at the end of the 7100 block is a building I helped a contractor obtain through the company that used as offices right in front. That's it there. That was owned by the industrial company previous before that, abandoned and just boarded up. He's taken it now and redone it, brought his business in there, changed it to residential himself upstairs, still working on that. But there are a number of good buildings on that east side that are historic and contributing. We're in the process of finalizing the lease for a Montessori daycare and school in the Hoffmeister Mortuary property at the 7800 block. And that's a fabulous building also that was built in the 1880s, as a number of these buildings have that should be retained. Also, with more that we do there and some of that open ground that the railroad is wasting away, and just took down a building that they had built, was not contributing, will provide ample parking and access. But the more buildings we build on the east side, which will then also shelter and shield some of that back industrial and unrestricted kind of use back there, the better appearance that the commercial district will make.
Madam Chairman, I've talked about in the past of having a field trip, but I think I see one in the making.
Any other?
Thank you.
Been moved and seconded? Amendments?
Previous roll.
Previous roles been requested. Are there any commissioners here, or Commissioner Kreisman on the phone who object to the use of the previous role?
Just like those that might be at the good seats across the way, front row gets priority service. Anybody need to go after one?
Well, we have no objections, and the matter passes. And we'll go on to our Chapter 99 work.
Good stuff.
Thank you all.
Thank
Ready
you.
to come down and see me.
Madam Chairman, the next four are Chapter 99 redevelopment plans. So staff will present, but Dale Rusatz from LCRA is with us tonight.
Good evening, Commissioners. I have the pleasure of first, Chapter 99, which is the Amendment Lookaway Drive area. This area is a little over 3.02 acres in the Riverview neighborhood. area, and most of the area is vacant, as you can see, and there's single-family housing in the background that is a part of the county that has been recently developed. And the proposal is to build 22 new construction homes at a cost of $175,000 per house. Total cost will be $3.5 million. And the former developer is selling, Summit Holdings is selling to a new developer, Gateway Development LLC, and they have acquired the property for $341,000. And that developer plans to build a 3-bedroom family single residential housing. And you can see some of the residential housing that had been built previously, and the rest of the land is vacant. That is the entryway into Lookaway Drive and Lookaway Court. And again, more vacant land, and this is the North Riverfront Park and the entrance right off of Riverview Drive. The development will use all private funds to redevelop this area, and it is in a neighborhood development area. And the staff recommends approval. It is in conformity with the strategic land use neighborhood development area, which encourages new residential development construction, and we recommend approval.
Questions or comments?
We saw this not too long ago, didn't we? Was this brought before us from the previous developer?
Originally, it was never brought to the Planning Commission. It was just brought to the LCRA.
It just sounds familiar.
Yeah, it almost
came, and then we took it off.
In other words, it's a development from quite some time ago that got laid out, streets got put in, then it stopped.
Sure.
And then it tried to come back, and now it's coming back.
So is this a case where I didn't see any report on this. Is there a lighting plan?
There is a lighting plan. It's 5 years tax abatement, I believe.
It's a blighting plan and obsolescence.
Yes, 5 years.
It's two things that's interesting about this. It's been a couple of things that are interesting. It's 19 miles from the site we just looked at on South Broadway. I mean, that's the major difference. And the much of the riverfront on South Broadway is, of course, industrial for the landmark blocks. And then this is a subdivision for new housing on the North Fork. And you think it'd be a delightful place to live.
Any other questions?
So it's blighted as a result of it just being stalemated, the property, and it looks like there are 4 houses or so that were built.
And those are all in the county. The development, again, kept stalling. They kept getting a developer, then that developer would fold. So they finally have somebody who's willing to develop build 22 houses. So
it's amazing you can't get to those houses in the county without going to the city. Dale, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that covers it very well.
You entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded. We approve the lighting plan and do this lighting plan on conformity with the land use plan. We have a roll, please.
Commissioner Cruzen. Commissioner Cruzen?
Aye. Sorry, I had you on mute.
Chairman Stouter.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Peebles.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Jay.
Aye.
Commissioner Spade.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all present voting yes.
Second one?
The second redevelopment plan, a very unique project. Green Street St. Louis is the property owner, and they have been involved. This is the Interstate 70 North Broadway Cary area, and remember the most traveled center And then I think 2 or 3 months ago, we saw another convenience store gas station in this site. And Green Street's done a redevelopment of this site over here. So we have seen them many times and in this area. And the cemetery is right here, and this is the former Twinkies factory. The site is 5.74 acres.
The bus transfer center right there?
Yeah. The bus transfer center is right here. And it's 2 blocks north of this major intersection, and then a block east on Warren Avenue. And this is obviously the North Riverfront neighborhood. Green Street has owned the property since 2008, and they have negotiated a 10-year lease with the prospective developer, Bright Farm, which is a New York City-based business that finances, builds, and operates urban hydroponics greenhouses. So they kind of take it from the lease and do the rest of it. The land is rated in fair condition as vacant land by OCRA. The plan is for about 100,000 square feet of greenhouse space. Obviously, there's a lot of growing space greenhouses, but there's also packaging, storing, and office areas. So it's not just producing the food, but it's packaging, and it'll be going to the Schnucks store from that. So there's a long-term contract with Schnucks for up to 5 million pounds of greenhouse produce. Brian Pratt is the Green Street person that is working on this project, but instead today is Rob Maltby. And I understand from Rob that there is some area, maybe an acre or so, if they do well and Schnucks wants to do more. There is some room here to expand this particular greenhouse, and if they get other jobs, there may be other sites that they use. So this may be a good thing for now and for the future of the North River.
There was a typo at the top. It's not a Delmar address.
Oh, it is. This is the aerial photograph. Here's the interchange in North Broadway and Cary. This is North Broadway, the cemetery, and then a lot of redevelopment going on down here, and then the entrance to there. There's also new warehouses, and the Dial factory that we've seen so much in the past is right up there, too. This is the entrance. It's vacant land, so there's not much to see. You can see the large warehouse to the north, and then railroads and other industrial chase the Mississippi River. This is the floor plan of the building. There's ponds for hydroponics, and then, if I can read it correctly, I think this is the greenhouses for tomatoes and other vegetables that don't use hydroponics. And a storage, packaging area here and cold storage and large loading docks for the trucks. I think it's about 20 to 25 permanent docks. This is the strategic land use plan. You can see we recently changed the Love's Travel to regional commercial, and we'll be coming back and doing the other truck stop here. When the warehouse there was built, this was considered expansion room for that, and so Planning Commission already has changed this to a preservation area. So, but this it does fit in with the proposed use. More recently, the North Riverfront Commercial Corridor Land Use Plan. You can see the site. Here's the triangle there, and the category is redevelopment. So I think our redevelopment plan for a redevelopment area is in conformity with this North Riverfront plan. And so it's in conformity with both the SLUP and the North Riverfront Commerce Plan, and staff recommends approval of the lighting study and the redevelopment plan. There is no plan to use that.
And the developer and is here, as is Dale Malzier.
Dick, you had me at 1 million pounds of produce a year. That's phenomenal. That's pretty cool. Yeah, right. More vegetables.
Does the contract exist with Schnucks?
Yeah, it does. Currently, it's just for the initial, I believe it's 5 years. So we've primarily just built the land owner, and Brightfarm just sort of hashed out that agreement with Schnucks directly. But it should be a pretty neat project.
Can you just give the overall context of Bright Farms there?
Yeah, they typically they've built these models around the country. It's almost a modular greenhouse system that goes in. Typically, they're about 120,000 square feet, depending on site. And they have locations currently, I believe, in Washington, D.C., Kansas City, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Oklahoma City, as well as New York. So it seems to be a pretty replicable model. I think there was a definite need here in St. Louis to get fresh, healthy produce.
Are they able to recover the stormwater that comes off and use it, or is it a health code issue to be able to reuse it in production?
I don't know. I don't know if we've done a whole lot of environmental testing on that site. I know that some of the existing sites we have proximity.
I'm just thinking off the greenhouses, if you're able to recover the stormwater.
I'm not too familiar with how the process works.
And there's a letter from Alder to Woman Flowers supporting this scheme.
I don't think there's a surprise to that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Move approval.
Fantastic.
Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded.
Previous roll.
Previous rolls have been requested. Are there any objections by any of the commissioners here or on the telephone to the use of the previous roll? Hearing none, matter passes.
Could you get Deerbergs to do one a little further down the road for more greenhouses?
Get them to come to the city, but thank you very much.
Manchester Avenue?
This is a Chapter 99 Blighting Study and Redevelopment Plan for the 492963 Manchester Avenue redevelopment area. The site is about 1 3/4 acres in size. It consists of a single parcel, and it's located near the northwest corner of Kings Highway Boulevard and Manchester Avenue in the Kings Oak neighborhood. The existing uses are 3 industrial buildings, and what's being proposed is the demolition of 1 building and the construction of a new building in its place, and a renovation of the attached building for a new $3 million drive-through self-storage facility. The prospective developer is Nolan Real Estate Interest, LLC, which has developed, I believe, 50 or 60 of these facilities within a 7-state area, including one here in St. Louis on Chippewa Street a few years or so ago. Representing the firm tonight is Bill Bauman, who's here from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Steve Nolan, who's in from Fort Worth, Texas, and also with them is Tom Ray of Armstrong, Teesdale. This is an aerial photo of the redevelopment area, and I'll try to run by these fairly quickly. You can see it's a triangular-shaped parcel. To the north is St. Louis University High School and some of its recreation facilities, a residential block along Wise Avenue, a BP gas station, the Taylor Community Resource Service Center, I think I got the name right, a multi-tenant office and warehouse building that was built probably about 5 to 10 years or so ago, and an industrial building immediately to the west. These are some photos of the western end of the parcel. It includes two buildings. This is looking eastward, I guess, and this is looking westward. And you can see that even though the buildings are quite different in appearance, they're attached to each other. The building on the left is a two-story building that's proposed to be demolished. It's largely vacant at this point. And it would be replaced with a new building. The building on the right is currently occupied by Advantage Self-Storage, a different self-storage facility. That building would remain and be renovated as part of the redevelopment proposal. The photo on the left is the building that we just saw that has the current self-storage facility as well as an adjacent parking lot. And then at the eastern end of the parcel is a freestanding building that's occupied by Trane Supply, built probably about 5 or so years or so ago. That building would remain and would not be touched as part of the redevelopment plan. In terms of the adjacent properties, on the left is St. Louis University High School and some of its grounds. To the right is the residential block. To the left is the multi-tenant office and warehouse building across the street on Manchester, and a food coloring plant is immediately west of the redevelopment area. This is a proposed site plan that was submitted by the prospective developer, and I guess that's a dashed line right there which indicates where the property will be subdivided. So the building that is currently occupied by Trane Supply would remain there and be lopped off from the remainder of this redevelopment area. And this is a main level floor plan showing the western end of the parcel where the self-storage facility would be. So this is Manchester Avenue, and customers would drive in at the eastern end of the parcel, pull into the building through a drive-through facility, take care of their business, and then pull out of the building back onto Manchester Avenue. There would be an office and an apartment unit that would be manned by an on-site manager who would live there. That will entail getting a variance from the Board of Adjustment. And in terms of storage, the building would be 3 stories, 100,000 square feet, and have about 700 storage units in the building. This is a elevation of the south elevation of the building. This would be facing Manchester Avenue. So this would be what drivers would be seeing. This is the building that would remain, and the remaining portion of the elevation here would be new construction that would be attached to and integrated with the existing building. The east elevation shows where the drive-through lane would be as well as the office.
Do you actually drive through the building?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm one of the few people in the country that actually do that. It allows us to have a really nice, like a box that you can design to fit into just about anywhere.
They supplied an interesting photo that, in retrospect, I probably should have included that showed the interior portion of the facility with the drive-through lane. The city strategic land use plan designates the site as a business industrial preservation area shown here in gray, and obviously that encourages infill industrial development, and this fits in quite well. So the proposed redevelopment is in conformity with the city strategic land use plan. It does not provide for eminent domain, and staff is recommending approval of the blighting study redevelopment plan. Mr. Nolan and Mr. Bauman and Mr. Ray of Armstrong Keysville are all here and answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
Well, I would say first, I typically, when I heard storage, I think of these awful suburban aluminum Butler buildings, and when I saw the old building that you're keeping and then adding on the way you are, I think it's certainly in keeping from the character of that important, to me that's an important corner and an important neighborhood of SLU there. So I guess if we have some level of guarantees and expectation that you're providing that level of quality in architecture.
You see, if you go to our Chippewa project, we completely redid the old Swingway manufacturing
Okay.
And that whole neighborhood has changed from that.
This is an oddly shaped site, so.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah, the way it's sawtoothed, the building made that.
What's the abatement term?
Pardon me?
What's 10 years?
10 years.
And you couldn't reuse the building that was there, the one you're proposing to tear down?
We've actually been looking at this for about 3 years. We'd hoped that we'd be able to keep the two-story portion. Years ago, it just structurally unsound. We just couldn't work it. The other building, 3-story, actually is structurally sound, and I think it's an attractive building, so we were integrated with
I think the old building was a mid-century modern building, wasn't it?
Well, it's not, I think it's probably before the war.
Was it before the war?
I don't know.
I think it was built in the 50s.
I mean, okay, so technically.
Yeah, right, and one of the problems with, there's this structurally, it's not sound, they're not even using the second floor right now.
Oh, really?
I mean, it looks like something out of a Freddy Krueger movie up there. The roof deck is corroding and leaking.
Can you get your car washed as you go through?
You might be able to.
It's a good idea.
What's the timeline on this?
Well, I think we'd be closing probably around September. If everything was viewed favorably, August, September, then we'd get started right away.
Right. We're going to the Board of Adjustment July 2nd for our variance, and then hopefully we'll just keep working through the building department and get going on.
So you see, is this kind of a higher-end clientele, or how, I mean...
It's a higher-end product.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a higher-end product.
Yes, I mean, it is.
Well, it attracts we have a much higher level. We typically are in a lot of our markets, we're next to the nicest shopping mall, that kind of thing, and we have a much larger portion of business clients, which we'll get, and that's where you talk about, we have maybe one or two, like 2 permanent jobs, but then we literally have 20, 30, 40 small businesses that, where the person has their office at home and they use this as where they feel comfortable enough because of the quality that they can store high quality things. Local retailers with the small storefronts are able to store their seasonal inventories and things. So it allows them to kind of grow without, within their limited storefronts and things like that. So it really is kind of a neat little incubator type thing.
Kind of the Central West End market and academic market that's all in that zone. Okay.
Other questions, comments? Have a recommendation?
Move approval.
Second.
Then moved and seconded that we recommend the lighting plan and find conformity with the redevelopment plan.
Roll call.
The previous roles been requested.
Roll call.
Oh, you want a roll call, okay. We'd like a roll call vote on this item.
Alderwoman Cruzen? Alderwoman Cruzen?
Aye.
Sligo?
Aye.
Thank you. Chairman Stouter?
Aye.
Commissioner Powers?
No.
Commissioner Peebles?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Jay?
Aye.
Commissioner Spade?
Aye.
And the motion passes with all but one voting yes.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in from out of town.
Thank you.
Which one of you is from Ann Arbor? I went to planning school at the UML.
Oh, great school. I've got a lot of friends who went to planning school.
It was a long time.
We're all
Thank you again.
You were like the first class on things, correct?
Well, thank you all.
Not that old.
That's good.
We have one more redevelopment plan, and that's for the 2600 Dr. Samuel T. Shepard Drive redevelopment area. The site is about 2 1/4 acres in size. It consists of a single parcel located at the southwest corner of Dr. Shepard Drive and Jefferson Avenue in the Midtown neighborhood. The existing use is a large warehouse building and a parking lot. The prospective developer purchased the property for about $1 million earlier this year. He plans on renovating the building for $75,000 and purchasing $200,000 of new equipment for his business, Butler Merchandising Solutions. Is that correct? The prospective developer is Irby Properties, LLC. Ken Butler is here tonight, who is also in addition to being the prospective developer, the property owner as well as the business owner. This is a map of the redevelopment area. As you can see, the building occupies nearly the entire parcel. There's also a parking area that fronts on Jefferson Avenue. These are a couple photos of the business. On the left is the frontage along Jefferson Avenue with the parking lot in the foreground, building in the background. And on the right is the building's frontage along Dr. Samuel Shepherd Drive. It's built immediately up to the sidewalk there. On the left is another shot of the frontage along Dr. Shepherd Drive, and to the right is the frontage along Beaumont Street. In terms of the adjacent properties, to the north is the rear of the Scott Joplin House State Historic Site. Those are the grounds that you see in the foreground. The Club St. Louis, and a public parking lot. To the east is Washington Avenue Loft District, which is gradually moving westward. And there have been a couple of buildings that have been redone. The buildings that you see on the right were renovated several years or so ago and are actually located on the other side of the alley from the redevelopment area. Further down the street along Washington, you have largely some vacant commercial buildings, and to the west of the redevelopment area are primarily some vacant lots and buildings. The City Strategic Land Use Plan designates the site as well as much of the area west of Jefferson as an opportunity area, which basically means it's an underutilized area and an area that's experiencing some transition in terms of its land use. So basically this is an area that calls out for flexibility in terms of land use and development proposals. And as you're aware, the Planning or Design Agency will be undertaking a review of many of those opportunity areas within the year. The site is zoned industrial, so it fits in as well. So the redevelopment plan is in conformity with the city strategic land use plan. There is no provision for eminent domain, and staff is recommending approval of the Chapter 98 lighting study and development plan. Mr. Butler, the prospective developer, is here tonight, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Do we have any idea what the taxable value is currently, and what we're talking about? This is a $75,000 investment, I presume, in a parking lot, in resurfacing the parking lot, and if we're giving away 10 years of tax abatement, there just isn't much being invested in the property.
And so I'll let Dale describe what the delta gets involved in that case.
Well, you're absolutely right. There's not a lot of value in the tax abatement. On the other hand, the city has hardly anything to lose because there isn't going to be a significant increase in the assessed value of the property, and therefore the difference is not great. To us, the real value in this, which is sort of the understory, is that Mr. Butler has a business a block or so to the east, and he had an opportunity to move his whole business out to St. Louis County. And then this building became available, and he was, though I think, and he can speak for himself, though I think he would have preferred perhaps to have his whole business under a single roof, because this was so close, it gave him an opportunity to keep his business in the city. And though there isn't, as you point out, a great value in that tax abatement, we felt that was a carrot worth offering to keep the business here. And so the city has hardly anything to lose in this over a 10-year period, but we have a great deal to gain by keeping this business in the city and its employees.
I've also hired 25 new employees in the past 6 months. So with this building, my sales have increased 200% this year compared to last. That's what the value is really.
Do you feel like the building that you're on, are you renting a building now? Or?
I own 2 city blocks on Delmar, so we're manufacturing there, and we're sending all our product to this building to do the fulfillment, kit packing, that type of stuff.
So you're still going to keep your existing building that you're in?
Yeah.
So this just allows you to
I have an
expand?
empty block there. It's a long story, but
Right.
we're trying to build there, and I'm in that Paul McKee situation, so
Right.
I'm excited about it, and, this thing just came up.
Is the building currently vacant?
The one, Samuel Shepherd?
Yeah.
No, I'm working 2 shifts in it. It's been, it was a godsend that I got the building, which helped increase my sales, so.
Is there increased trucking, access because of the increased production? Have you had any concerns from the residents that live behind?
No, I basically, I spent a lot more money, $75,000, that was the number I was thinking when I went in, but I had to redo all the plumbing and, build up,
In terms of noise, I'm saying, with...
No, we're not trucking at nighttime. All our trucks are being, during the daytime. With our customer base, it's a lot of expensive product coming in, a lot of expensive product going out, so it's got to be pretty much hands-on.
Do you load the displays with the customer's product?
Yeah, just last month, we had 990,000 bottles of Palmolive soap, a couple $1 million worth of soap. We built the displays, packed it, shipped it out. That type of stuff.
Other questions or comments?
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded to approve the lighting recommendations, find conformity to the redevelopment plan.
Previous role?
Jeff.
Could you read our roll?
Alderwoman Cruzen.
Aye.
Chairman Stouter.
Aye.
Commissioner Powers.
Aye.
Commissioner Peebles.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Commissioner Jay.
Aye.
And Commissioner Spade.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all present voting yes.
And Dale, the present business is in the north side regeneration area. Is this site also in the north side?
No, it's not.
Yeah, that's right. I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the redevelopment plan.
Do you have any
Longacre.
questions about redevelopment plans on the delegated items? Feel free to talk to us. Street closure is the same. Feel free to also comment and talk with us.
Any new business? We had the discussion of...
Was in part just to acknowledge that Michael brought up a sort of a smart 2 and a 2. Hey, if we have this recording, can we make it available? And if we've discussed that enough, I have no other new business.
And if you were a citizen wanting to find the works of the planning commission, you would access it.
We're learning 2 things. Is one, trying to make sure it's identified in a logical place on the city's website, and 2, that what would be the logical search words are also, if you put those in the search box, will get you. So the hardest part is to make sure those search words look good, so that you.
Yeah, having it is nothing if it's not accessible, easily accessible.
To be truthful, I tend to use the search box even though I generally know where things are.
Other new business? We don't need an executive session? No. And the next meeting is going to be July the 2nd?
Yeah, let's...
July 2nd, before the holiday.
We have no other business?
Move to adjourn.
Second. Aye.
All in favor? Aye, aye.